The film begins by showing a bespectacled young man named Jeffrey Dahmer who is on a bus heading to his school. Dahmer saw a male jogger on the way and felt attracted to him. In fact, so intrigued by the man, Dahmer changed seats so he could keep an eye on the male jogger, ignoring his schoolmates who mocked him. Because Dahmer was making noise on the bus driver ordered him to return to his seat to avoid disturbing the other passengers' comfort. In the afternoon after school, Dahmer picked up animal carcasses and put them in a garbage bag and was approached by two friends who asked him what he was doing. He then told them that he was collecting animal carcasses and intended to dissolve the bones using chemicals provided by his father, who is a chemist. Curious about how Dahmer dissolved the bones of the dead animals, the two young men then followed him to a hut in the middle of the forest. The cottage is a chemistry lab owned by Dahmer's father, Lionel, which has long been abandoned. Dahmer then took out a chemical liquid that he would use while telling his two friends that he really liked looking at and holding animal organs like he did when dissecting animal carcasses before being dissolved in the chemical liquid. Seeing Dahmer, who did not hesitate to dissect the animal carcass, his two friends immediately rushed to leave him and called him a strange person. That evening, while having dinner with his family, Dahmer was advised by his father to go out and make friends rather than just spend time in the lab and collecting animal carcasses. On the other hand, Dahmer's younger brother, Dave, was seen complaining to his mother because the chicken thigh he was eating was still red and not fully cooked. In contrast to Dave, who does not like undercooked meat dishes, Dahmer apparently thought undercooked meat was very delicious and was very voracious to eat it. At school, Dahmer was often bullied by his schoolmates, both physically and verbally. However, he did not seem to care much about it. But before we continue, we want to thank Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. Raid is the first game to bring a true console-level experience to your phone. With hundreds of artifacts to equip and over 600 champions blessed with unique skills, you can build your team, develop your champions, and raid your way. So it's new in Raid Shadow Legends. Raid has just released a superpowered legendary version of everybody's favorite champion, Death Knight. I've been waiting for this character for a long time and I'm so excited. Just look at him. Ultimate Death Knight has a solid kit to help players progress through dungeons, Doom Tower, Clan, or Hydra boss. I'm sure Death Knight will also become your next favorite champion. The best part is, everyone can get brand new Ultimate Death Knight for free. All you have to do is log in and play Raid for 7 days between now and October 27th, and you'll add Ultimate Death Knight to your collection. And right now, Raid's running an amazing trick or treat promotion for Halloween where you can win a bunch of real-life and in-game prizes, including $1,000 Amazon gift cards and some of the best epic and legendary Halloween champions in Raid. The best part is that it's all free and super easy. All you need is your Raid player ID. Just download Raid with my link in the description, then head to trickortreat.plarium.com. From there, just enter your details, spin the wheel and get your prize. This special event runs from October 15th to November 5th. So be fast. You can also use the DK Rises promo code for a bunch of free items to instantly level your new strongest champion all the way to level 50, 5-star Ascension. The promo code is available for both new and existing players. And if you haven't started playing Raid yet, click my link in the description or scan my QR code here on the screen, and you'll get unique bonuses worth $30. We're talking about a free epic champion, Rector Drath, 200k silver, 1 energy refill and 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get in game. Grab it fast now. Click my link in the description or scan my QR code here on the screen. Join the fun in Raid Shadow Legends. In biology class, the teacher asked a boy named John Backdorf to do group work with Dahmer. John had no choice but to obey his teacher's orders. As he pulled up the chair next to Dahmer, John accidentally dropped a few pieces of paper showing the sketch he had drawn. After school, Dahmer habitually collected animal carcasses and diluted them with a chemical solution. When they got home, Dahmer and Dave saw their parents having a big fight. They decided to go straight to the room because they didn't want to make things worse. The next day, Lionel, who had just arrived home from work, asked his youngest son where Dahmer was. Dave said Dahmer was probably in the chemistry lab. Hearing this, Lionel suddenly became annoyed and rushed to the hut carrying a trash can. He then throws away all of Dahmer's collection of animal carcasses and scolds him while insisting to him that he doesn't want his son to be seen as a weirdo. Lionel even threatens to destroy the lab if Dahmer continues his strange habit. Lionel turned out to be really serious about his threat because a few days later, the chemistry lab was completely knocked down by him. Dahmer felt sad and disappointed because his father destroyed all of his collections. He tried to find any remnants of his collection that might still be intact, but he found nothing. While sitting pensively on the side of the road, Dahmer saw the male jogger he had seen from the bus some time ago. He noticed the man, and his interest in the man grew. At home, Dahmer, who looks gloomy, is approached by Lionel, who apologizes for destroying the chemistry lab. Lionel revealed that he did it so that Dahmer could live a normal life like everyone else. He also really hopes that Dahmer will have lots of friends and date beautiful girls. He then gave him a pair of barbells so he could train his muscles every day and transformed into an athletic young man, so girls were attracted to him. Although still irritated with his father, Dahmer had no choice but to comply with Lionel's wishes. A few days later, while at school, Dahmer tried to attract the attention of his schoolmates by feigning seizures and making loud noises. Surprisingly, his schoolmates were amused by this action. Even Dahmer managed to attract the attention of John and his friends. While having lunch, John approached Dahmer and invited him to join him and his friends. John and his 2 friends then told him that they were very impressed with his seizures and intended to form the Dahmer fan club, then make Dahmer the club president. Hearing this, Dahmer was happy because he finally met people who were kind to him. Dahmer, John, and 2 of their friends then performed a feigned seizure in front of the other students and were credited with being so entertaining. Not only because his actions are quite entertaining, Dahmer then inspires John to draw him in various situations, drawings that would later be incorporated into John's graphic novel My Friend Dahmer. One day, Dahmer and his friends went fishing at a river on the forest's edge. Not long after, he managed to catch a fish, but instead of storing the catch in the freezer box, he slaughtered the fish. John and his friend then asked Dahmer why he did that. Dahmer told them he just wanted to see the insides of the fish. Later, John, who was visiting Dahmer's house, accidentally saw his parents having a big fight. Thinking that his presence in the house would only disturb the comfort of Dahmer and his family, he decided to go home. As time passes, Dahmer develops an obsession with a male jogger whom he sees every day from his school bus. The jogger turns out to be Dr. Matthews, the physician of one of John's friends. Sometime later, Dahmer, feeling very frustrated seeing his parents always fighting, stole a bottle of his father's whiskey and drank it until nothing was left. Since then, he has become addicted to alcohol and was often scolded by his teacher at school. Worse, Dahmer even started killing the animals. One day, Dahmer and his classmates went on a study trip to Washington, D.C. to meet the President of the United States. On this study trip, he will share a hotel room with Charlie, one of his black classmates. Seeing Charlie's jet black skin, Dahmer innocently asked if his internal organs were also black like his skin. Charlie, who heard this, was very surprised and looked at Dahmer with a sneer. The next day, Dahmer and his friends were very disappointed that they could not meet the U.S. president because he had to attend a very important meeting. Dahmer then told his friends that he would find a way for them to meet the Vice President of the United States, Walter Mondale. He made a phone call, and they finally managed to meet the Vice President in his office and briefly chat with the number 2 most powerful man in the United States government. Later, Dahmer fakes a cold to get an appointment with Dr. Matthews and examine him naked. When Dahmer returns home, he retires to his room and masturbates to the incident. The following nights, Dahmer fantasizes about having intercourse with Dr. Matthews. The next day, he took a dog into the forest and was about to kill him but then canceled his intention because he had never seen the animal's internal organs. Meanwhile, because of the ongoing fights in their household, Lionel decided to divorce his wife, Joyce. Joyce agreed to divorce but was furious when she discovered that Lionel insisted on full custody of their children. Dahmer grew increasingly frustrated with his parents fighting all the time and did everything he could to avoid them. Meanwhile, John and his friends have an idea to pretend to have a seizure in a shopping center. John then met Dahmer and tried to persuade him to do the stunt. He even lured Dahmer with some money so that he was willing to carry out the action. Needing money to buy alcoholic drinks, Dahmer agreed to John's offer. They then went to a shopping center, where Dahmer performed the feigned seizure without feeling embarrassed. After being satisfied with Dahmer's actions, John and his friends paid him according to their agreement. Arriving home, Dahmer was very surprised when his mother told him she would divorce Lionel. Joyce tells her son that she has custody of Dave, while Lionel has custody of Dahmer. Afterward, Joyce leaves the house to live with relatives in Wisconsin, taking Dave with her and leaving Dahmer completely alone. One morning, Dahmer, who has a habit of stalking Dr. Matthews, hiding in the bushes, carries a baseball bat, which he plans to use to overthrow the man. However, Dr. Matthews hadn't been jogging that morning, which annoyed Dahmer. Ahead of the prom party that will be held at his school, Dahmer ventured to invite a girl named Lily to be his date. Lily, who seemed interested in Dahmer because of his handsome face, then accepted his invitation with pleasure. While at the prom, John and his friends were very surprised to see Dahmer, who came to the party with a beautiful girl. Despite his strange behavior, they had no idea that Dahmer could conquer a girl's heart. However, Dahmer looks uncomfortable when dancing with Lily because he apparently cannot deny his sexual attraction to men. He then told Lily that he wanted to go to the toilet. But until the prom was over, Dahmer didn't return and Lily became very sad because Dahmer dumped her. Dahmer apparently didn't go to the toilet but bought some food and went straight home, ignoring Lily. Long story short, graduation day arrived. The students seemed very happy because they had successfully graduated from high school and were preparing to continue their education to college. While everyone was having fun, Dahmer looked frustrated that his parents were divorced, his family was broken, and he was left alone at home. Lionel decides to move out of the house and gives Dahmer his family car as a graduation present. Dahmer, who could no longer control his emotions, let out all the anger he had been holding in for so long. Sometime later, John, who was at his house, was asked by his mother to buy chicken to be cooked for dinner. On the way home after buying chicken, John saw Dahmer walking alone to his house. He then offers Dahmer a ride, which he accepts. Arriving at Dahmer's house, John realized that Dahmer's house was very dark and lonely. Dahmer then informed that his parents were divorced, and his mother moved to Wisconsin with his brother while his father lived elsewhere. In the car, John tells him that he is leaving for college the following day and offers him his drawings of Dahmer, which he declines. Dahmer offered John to stop by for a few drinks. John actually wanted to accept the offer, but because Dahmer was acting strangely, he chose to go straight home. On the other hand, Dahmer made a gesture that he wanted to attack John with the baseball bat, but he didn't and let John leave his house. As John gets in the car and drives home, he notices the bat. Dahmer never has contact with his high school friends again. The next day, Dahmer decided to go for a walk in his car. On the way, he saw a man named Stephen Hicks who had just come home from a concert. Stephen, who is a hitchhiker, then asks Dahmer for a ride. Seeing Stephen's shirtless appearance and pretty handsome face, Dahmer was happy to give the man a ride. The closing credits note that Stephen Hicks was never seen again and that Jeffrey Dahmer admitted to killing 17 men when he was finally arrested in 1991. This film is based on the true story of Jeffrey Dahmer, an American serial killer and sex offender. He committed the murder and dismemberment of 17 men and boys between 1978 and 1991. Dahmer was convicted of 15 of the 16 murders he had committed in Wisconsin and was sentenced to 15 terms of life imprisonment on February 17, 1992. Dahmer was later sentenced to a 16th term of life imprisonment for an additional homicide committed in Ohio in 1978. On November 28, 1994, he was beaten to death by a fellow inmate at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin. The moral message that we can learn from this film is that we cannot judge people by their appearance nor, therefore, remain kind and friendly to others, and never ask strangers for a ride because it is very dangerous for our safety.